Good evening everybody, Mitch Old Pal Overland Metaler here, coming to you from St. George in French Guiana, just right on the border between France and Brazil. I reckon most of you people who don't know anything about geography, you wouldn't know that France has a border with Brazil or Suriname. But yeah, being French Guiana, it's the border of France, it borders Brazil and Suriname, just kind of like how St. Martin borders the Netherlands, like the Caribbean island. Yeah, so look it up. Now I'm here to talk about French Guiana as a backpacker, okay, as a tourism. Now, not many people come to French Guiana. The people that do, they're kind of here to see animals in the wild, or the rainforests. They want to see that islands where all the convicts were taken in the colonial days, as French Guiana was a penal colony. And they made a movie out of that starring Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, look it up. And they also want to get to see that space station. Now, all this sightseeing stuff, they really add up when you think about it and all. But let's get to the positives about French Guiana. Now, French Guiana is quite cheap to get to from mainland France. You can get a direct flight for return for 250 euros. Well, my one cost, sorry, £250. £200. Yeah, so my flight cost 330 euros, so less than 300 quid for me. And it's a 9-hour flight that goes from Orly to Guiana. And so once you land in Guiana, this is where the big bombshell drops. There's no public transport from the airport. Felix Airport, named after the great leader from French Guiana, who was he did a lot of colonial work in Africa, but he was born in French Guiana. Now, no public transport, so you've got two options. You pay a €35 flat fare to go from the airport to the city, that's 15 kilometers. You could walk all the way to Maturi and hopefully find a bus or a taxi there, or you could do what I do, is just like hitchhike, just keep walking from the airport with your thumb out, and then hopefully somebody will give you a lift to Guiana and save you €35. Accommodation is also a really big bank buster factor. Most of the hotels in Guiana, in the city centre, they're at least €70 and upwards. The ones outside of Guiana, like on the outskirts, are at least €40. Like I found one for €45. So what I did was I found an Airbnb for £15. So I land in Guiana, get a free ride to the city, and I spend one night for £15. Now after you've seen the dismal sights in Guiana, which there's nothing really much to see city centre like wise, you can just like walk around, see a whole bunch of monuments, see an avenue named after Nelson Mandela or Christopher Columbus. You need to get the hell out of French Guiana. Now, if you want to be like me and forget everything else about French Guiana, you have two options. St. Laurent, which is on the border of Suriname, or St. George on the border of Brazil. Now, to go from Guiana to St. Laurent is at least €35 shared taxi, like 7-seater taxi. You just hop in the taxi, waiting for it to fill up, and then it goes when it's like full. That will take you at least 4 hours and cost €35. And then when you're in St. Laurent, to get out of the country, it's only like €3 to €5, like canoe dugout to Suriname. But you must make sure you have a Surinamese visa beforehand, because you won't get one at the embassies or consulates in French Guiana. So you have to do it online. Second thing is to get to Brazil. It's I paid €50 to go from Guiana to St. George, and the ride is very well. It's a paved road, but drivers in this part of the world, they don't have good driving skills and standards than us Western people have in Europe. Like driving with a seatbelt, like we drive with a seatbelt on. We have both hands on the wheel, and we don't distract the driver. We don't smoke. We don't smoke weed, we don't play stupid music, we just like focus on driving. But people in this part of the world, they text or drive and they play with their phone, they have one hand on the wheel and they speed. So I was really grateful that I made it to St. George tonight alive. Thank you, God. Yeah, so if you're here, the only reason you'd come to St. George is to get to Brazil. But because I've arrived here very late, the Brazil border police checkpoint, it doesn't open to 8 o'clock, so I have to stay here. Now this hotel is, for a room like this, big bed, TV, fridge, it's costing me 60 euros a night. There was another hotel, but that was all full up. I don't really think there are Airbnbs, but it's much cheaper if you stay in Brazil, because like accommodation, it's like really like you can get rooms for, I've seen 60 Brazilian real or 100, so that's like maybe 20 euros, I guess. And then so if you do want to go to French Guiana, just keep in mind that everything is expensive. Food-wise, in other hands, food-wise, pretty cheap and decent. Like I've seen Chinese meals for 7 euros, and you'd pay maybe a starter or a main in Paris for that much, I guess. So, but if you don't want to like dine at restaurants, there's always like people selling grilled cheese or hamburgers on the side of the road in Guiana, and all these like just like pop-up kitchens and all. So think about that. Saint Laurent, didn't see anything much about that city and all. So my advice to you is, if you want to come to South America on the cheap, fly to Guiana from Paris. But my next point is, just don't spend more than a day in this country, or this part of France. Just go on to Suriname to get to Guyana, or go on to Brazil, but just don't hang around French Guiana, because it's going to burn a hole in your wallet. So I'm just going off to Brazil for the next week, so where everything will be a bit much cheaper, and then I'm going to avoid having to pay 35 euros to get to the airport next weekend, because I'm staying near the airport, and a drive can get me there for 5 euros from my hotel. So anyway, this is over, Metalhead over and out on French Guiana.